Hi, my name is Nick Phillips, and today we're going to go over some of the harmful effects of 24-hour news. Taking a look back into how the news was constructed in the mid-1900s, you can see how different it is from news today. Programs such as the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite aired for only a few hours in the evening. The reason for this evening time slot was that people coming home from work or school could sit down, watch the news, and be informed on important events. However, in the year 1980, Ted Turner introduces CNN, the first 24-hour news station. In this time period, such a network was unheard of, and thus Ted Turner and CNN got a lot of publicity for this courageous trailblazing. The public seemed to take a liking for the station and its new format, and thus the 24-hour news cycle was born. Ted was even named Time Magazine's Man of the Year for this achievement. However, there was a systematic problem with the structure of this 24-hour news cycle. This problem stemmed from networks trying to answer the question of how does one fill up a 24-hour news cycle with stories. One answer for this problem was repetition. Channels would often repeat headlines every hour or so to update anyone who had just tuned in. Another option was to start covering more and more stories that in the past would not normally have made it onto the news broadcast. Stories such as small, fairly insignificant statements made by politicians, updates on pop culture news, and even the ridiculous stories pictured on screen that should be reserved for mediums like Facebook and Twitter, not cable news. These fillers are leading to a decrease in the quality of news. They are altering the mindset of the audience, getting them more and more invested with these tiny little stories, and sometimes distracting them from the truly important events that need to be covered. Another reason that has led to the presentation of less quality news is the changing priorities of the networks. Most channels started out with the mission of providing the best quality news to their viewers with accuracy and precision. However, these priorities have changed as news has gotten more commercialized and greedy. Stations are always out to increase their ratings, therefore boosting revenue. This can get them to lose sight of what their original goal was. For example, you saw in the past election cycle the focus on conspiracies and controversial statements made by the candidates. Things you saw far less of were the stories about the major events happening overseas and elsewhere. I'm not saying they were never covered, but they were definitely dwarfed by the coverage the election received. I don't believe that this ratio of coverage was fair because some of the other stories were just as important, if not more so, than the election. Take, for example, the revolution happening in Venezuela right now. How many of you had heard stories about this recently? And if so, does it compare to the coverage about Trump's Twitter? I would say the answer to this is no. Therefore, we must be careful what we allow the media to suck us into, as they're just trying to play on our interest to boost ratings. Greed is also another major influence on the media. Looking at the salaries of some of the owners of these news networks, you can see how much they truly make. Pictured here on the right is the former CEO of Fox News, Roger Ailes. As you can see, his salary reached a staggering amount of $21 million in 2012 before he was fired due to sexual harassment charges this year. As part of the settlement he made with the network, he is going home with another $40 million, which adds up to the amount he would have received from his pre existing work contract over the next couple of years. So essentially, he is still receiving his salary, he just doesn't have to go to work anymore. I'm skeptical about if we are receiving the quality news we deserve if people like this are in charge of providing it to us. Watching Fox, you can tell that they are biased toward conservatives. In fact, they even present themselves as a more conservative network. However, a responsibility of being one of the most watched news networks is an unbiased presentation of the facts. I have no problem if facts are followed by an opinionated argument. However, it is crucial that the information is correct and factual so that viewers can decide to agree or disagree with the presented arguments. Without this, networks can present facts, whether true or not, that only support what they're saying and don't allow for constructive disagreement. This can lead to viewers becoming blind followers of their preferred station, especially if it is the only outlet they receive the news from. The final pitfall for 24-hour news is the speed at which it operates. Due to the rapid nature of the news and its infatuation with covering live stories, the media today has become extremely fast-paced. This is helpful in certain situations where stories need to be communicated quickly and in times of emergency. However, it also takes away from the quality of the news. Stories that are quickly rushed onto the air can seem unorganized and lack any kind of thorough analysis. This is due to the minimal time that journalists have to go over and review the story. Therefore, analysis of live events can oftentimes just be the pointing out of obvious facts. On the other hand, When journalists get more time to work on the story, you can see them highlighting more interesting ideas and subtleties that most would not have noticed, therefore adding to the quality of the news. Another reason speed in the media can be a problem is the pressure it puts on politicians. This can be both good and bad depending on the situation. On one hand, the extremely nosy and quick behavior of the media forces politicians to stay on their toes, and it also makes it much harder for them to hide a scandal. However, this pressure can also rush political deliberation. This can be detrimental if the topic at hand requires thorough thought and many revisions to get right. Occasionally, politicians will throw something together just to quiet the media. This leads to a drop in time spent on important issues that should be completed in a proper manner. Other politicians even handle this problem by doing nothing, waiting until the media gets bored and moves on. This is even worse as we have no solutions until the media turns off the spotlight on a certain subject. Many people assume that having massive amounts of news instantly at our fingertips is a benefit for society. However, the benefits of the 24-hour news cycle are outweighed by the drop in quality and distortion of facts that are a direct product of the environment this news cycle creates. Speed, greed, and the blind race to succeed have all influenced the news so much that they have started to lose sight of the goal that they were founded upon. That goal being to bring objective facts and quality news to the masses in order to keep the people informed. I am not saying that the 24-hour news is a complete failure because it has strayed a bit from its purpose. It still provides crucial tools such as the ability to keep us up to date on important events. However, we have to ask ourselves, at what cost? Due to the differing presentation of facts by opposing networks, American society has become polarized and split, with many individuals from each side refusing to even listen to one another. That is why I believe we must take everything in the news with a grain of salt and try and get our information from a multitude of different networks. Otherwise, we will all become blind followers of the station we watch, lacking the ability to come to our own conclusions. This can lead to a horrible situation in which the media has more control than the masses. Therefore, we must always be aware. We must always be questioning what information is being fed to us, and most importantly, we must always be above the media's influence.